Hi, and welcome to Create Love Arts. My name is Sharon, and we are working on a tutorial, step by step, on first chaining, then single crochet. And now today I'd like to do half double crochet. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds. It's half a double. So in order of size of the stitches, you're going to see the difference as we go. First thing we always do when we're beginning is, today, you're going to need your number 4 weight cotton of any brand, and any lighter color would be best. And also a 5mm hook. Any hook that you have that says 5mm on it or H8 is perfectly fine. You can also go, if you found during chaining that you chain a little too tightly and have trouble getting into the bump on the back of that chain when you're making that first row, go ahead and go up a half or the next hook size up. So that would be either 5.5 or 6mm. And that is perfectly fine for doing just the chain only. And that will leave you a little extra room to get into those stitches on the back of the chain when you're doing that first row. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is begin with our 4 to 6 inch tail and a slip knot. Roll it over, poke it through. You can even poke your hook in there and grab it. And then you can grab both and pull. And then you tighten it up to loose. You know, you don't want it to slip right off like that, but you don't want it cracked on there so that it can't move at all. You want to leave it nice and loose. And then we're just going to chain, I think we're going to do 15, okay? So hook in the front, wrap the yarn around, hook it in and through the loop, and pull through. That's 1 chain, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And also, if you're following along, in numerical order in the way that I've been teaching it, I also want to say you can reuse your yarn. So say you did all the single crochet stitches with me in the last video and you don't want to, start new with new yarn. You only have the one, sorry about that. You only have the one skein of yarn. Don't worry about it. Pull out the single crochets that you were practicing and start over again. And that way, you're not wasting your yarn. It won't affect your yarn at all unless you do it like a gabillion times. And then it'll start getting it'll start pulling apart a little, getting worn out. But otherwise, it's perfectly fine. So we're just going to count again real quick. I want to make sure I was thinking and trying to count. And that's not a good idea sometimes. So I've got 1. I'm counting the V's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and that V is the 15. So now, just like with the single crochet, we need a turning chain. With a half double crochet, what happens is some people tell you to chain 1 extra for the turning chain, and some say 2. I go ahead and do just 1. I find that it sits next to the half double just fine, and you don't need to do anything special. So now we actually have 16 chains, but 15 is our count because that last chain here is our turning chain. So again, just like before, to work into the chain, we are going to turn the chain over so that we can see these bumps on the back. Those are the bumps you're going to work into. And remember, we always skip this first bump because that's our loop hook. The loop on your hook. You don't want to chain into that because then you've lost your chain around. You don't want to make a stitch there. So for half double, what you're going to do, well, I'm just going to do a quick reminder. For a single, you're going to pop into this bump and you don't have to do this. I'm just going to show you real quick. You're going to pop into this bump, wrap your yarn around the hook, pull it through, 2 loops on the hook, wrap it and pull through 2. Okay, that is a single crochet. So I'm just going to take that one back out. What you want to do for a half double is you want to wrap the hook first. You're going to wrap that yarn around the hook first. Then you're going to pop it into that bump, wrap it again and pull through. Now you're going to have 1, 2, 3 loops on your hook. Okay, all 3 are part of the half double. Then you're going to wrap that hook one more time and pull through all 3 of them. This is a half double crochet. I'm going to do one more and then turn it around because the back of this is a little different. You could probably see that with the single crochet too, but half double, it definitely looks different. So we're going to wrap our hook before we go through the bump. Wrap your hook, go through that next bump on your chain, wrap it again and pull through. 1, 2, 3 loops on your hook, wrap it again and pull through all 3 loops. Now we have our second. In order to see this, let me do one more. So wrap your hook, go through the bump, wrap it again, pull through. 1, 2, 3 on your hook, wrap it, pull through all 3 loops. Now, you know, when we turn this around, it's going to look a little different. Why don't you continue on, and when we get to the end, I'll turn it. So, you know, let me rethink that. I think it'll just be easier to keep practicing what we're doing. Wrap your hook through that back bump with your hook. Wrap your hook again around the yarn. Pull through 1, 2, 3 loops. Wrap it again and pull through all 3 loops. This is either my favorite or my least favorite, depending on the pattern that I'm using. It's a great stitch. It looks really cool when it's done. It's just a shorter version of a single crochet. A taller version of the single crochet and a shorter version of the double crochet, which we'll learn next. So you're going to wrap that hook through that back bump, wrap it again, 1, 2, 3 on the hook, wrap it again, pull through all 3, and continue doing that all the way down until you get to the last stitch. And then we are going to count and make sure that we are in the right count. It's very important to keep your counts, especially when you're doing something that starts feeling simple. You get too cocky, and the next thing you know, oh my goodness, it turns into a nightmare. Sometimes it's hard to find out where you did the math wrong. And so it's just safer when you're either while you're doing it, and when you're learning, that can be hard to count as you go. I had trouble doing that. So what my method is that once I feel like I've gotten to the end of the row, or I think I did, because sometimes that gets tricky. Sometimes it's hard to see. This one's pretty good. When you're working in the chain, it's pretty self-explanatory where you're going. Okay, and there I am, last stitch, going into that last bump, right next to the slip stitch, that is the slip stitch that we began with. We're going to go in, pull through, 1, 2, 3 loops on your hook, pull through all 3. Now we're just going to tighten up that slip stitch, and there we have it. We're going to count these. We're going to count these stitches. Now you can start back at the beginning, or you can start here. I like to start from the hook. Depends. I go back and forth, to be honest, but starting from here makes sense because that loop you don't count. You don't count this loop that's on the hook. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and that one is 15. That is where that stitch begins. You see that there is a loop here. You count that loop, okay? So we'll go back from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, so we're good. Now what we're going to do is, just like with single crochet, you are going to leave your hook in there and turn your work. I like to turn, like this is how you begin. It's going off to your right or to your left if you're left-handed. You're just going to take, you're not even going to take the hook out. You're just going to push it forward and turn it around. Okay. I'm going to pull this hook out because this is what I wanted you to see about the back of half double. This can get confusing. Don't let it confuse you, okay? In the half double, you're going to see that there's loops here, and then it looks like loops here. And the fact is there are. That's a third loop. That is the third loop that we had on our hook. It just makes a cool bump when you're, going along. You can use that, and some patterns will tell you to use that. For our purposes, when you're learning this, you don't use that. We are just going to tighten our yarn back up on this. My goodness, Sharon. Here we go. I'm going to turn it back around. Just like before, we need a turning chain. See how that's going to get in my way. That yarn is right in front of that stitch. So that's what a turning chain really is for. So we're just going to chain 1 because that's my preferred method, but you could chain 2 if you feel like you need more room. Just like before, we're going to wrap that hook, that yarn right around that hook. On the back of the half double, you see there's your top stitches, and it makes it pretty easy to see where you're going in. You're going right into that hole right there. Okay, and you're going to pull that yarn through. 1, 2, 3 on your hook, wrap it around again, and pull all the way through. All right, so hopefully you see how to make this stitch fairly easily, and as you go, you'll get better and better at it. It's a practice makes perfect thing, or practice makes, it way easier to handle. I don't love that word perfect, but I will say practicing does make it a lot easier. So just remember, when you're doing a half double, you always wrap your yarn first around your hook, and then you go through the hole, wrap it again, and pull through. That gives you your 1, 2, 3 loops. Okay? Then again, you're going to wrap it to close those 3 loops together. On that last video of single crochet, I asked you to focus on the anatomy of the stitches that you were doing. I did that because I find that as you learn new stitches and new patterns and new ways to do everything, knowing the anatomy of the stitch, or how it is supposed to look when done properly, will help you navigate when they're asking you to do strange things that you're not expecting them to ask you to do in a pattern. And it won't trip you up as badly as it could if you did not learn the anatomy of the stitch. So that is pretty much all I have for you today, or at least in this video. I do want to show you here. So it kind of looks like I'm done, right? But let me count my stitches. I'm not going to count the fronts of these. That is a terrible idea. They are easy. They're beautifully made. You can see that they're really defined. Half doubles have a really cool definition. They're almost like a triangle ascot or something, maybe like a boat, a necktie. You can kind of see what I mean by that. It's got the top part here, and not including the loop, but down here, the top part and then the sides, they come into kind of a triangular V shape. I really like the half double for that. But I do want to count with you on these. So on here, I'm just going to count by twos. See, I have 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. I missed a stitch. And it doesn't look like it, does it? It really doesn't look like I did. But if you see right here, that turning chain that has a stitch with it, that's where I want to go in. I want to go right to the edge there. That's going to clean my edge up too, other than the fact that it'll be the right count. It'll also clean up the side of my work and leave the loops that I'll need for when I'm doing my border. So you can see the kind of looks like little knots on the side. And when you work into those for your border around the edge of things, you'll be able to see them clearly, and it helps you define where each stitch is going to go. But you need to put it in there anyway because that's the correct count. All right, so I think I am going to leave you to this and end the video here. I don't want these to get too long-winded, and I'm already tragically having trouble with that. So again, we are working on the half double. I want you to practice it. Do it as many times until you feel confident with it, or at least comfortable with it. These things take practice, and it can become second nature to you. It will become second nature if you practice it enough. So at this point, what I am going to say is when you are done practicing, like I said earlier, all you need to do is pull your working yarn. Pull it. It'll unravel every single thing you've done. And that will be helpful because then, once you've unraveled it all, you can go all the way back to that slip knot and pop it. At that point, use your yarn again. Make a new slip knot, make a new chain. It is all great, great practice, okay? And with that, I will leave you. Thank you so much for your time and for hanging out with me for a little while today. And I will see you the next time. Our next video will be double crochet. And you'll see why they call it double crochet. Thanks and have a great day.